All right, so here are my boxes of things that we have been squirreling away for when we're going to be ready to go camping. We have our first trip coming up at the end of this week, so I am going to spend a little bit of time today doing some organization and making it so that we can spend one night in the trailer the end of this week. So let's see. So we bought this little rug when we were staging the house to sell it in Ohio. So it fits perfectly and it even really matches. So obviously it'll need to be folded up when the slide comes in, but then it'll be good to go. That's super cute. All right, so here's some of the kitchen things. So these handy dandy things are tension rods to put in the bathroom. So let's go to the bathroom. The other thing I wanted to see was if there was room for a little rug. And it would have to be a little rug. I might measure that. But these handy dandy things well, kind of forgot that this was like a corner cabinet. So I don't think these will work, but somebody else had a really good idea of getting like little command hooks and then binder clips and hanging everything in there. So that might be what I do. This is going to be for towels and things. So maybe I don't need these little ones. Also got some that are supposed to be for the refrigerator. Alright, that works. Alright, let's go into the bedroom because I know I have the stuff for the bedroom. This blind does not want to work. So I'm gonna have to figure something out there. I don't know why it won't stay up. That one works. All right. I thought I had way more stuff than that because we've been cleaning out the basement and I kept putting things away to put into the camper. And now everything's in and there's really not a whole lot in here. So I need to go raid my bathroom, see what kind of toiletries I have duplicates of that I can just bring and leave in here. Chris has enough shirts, but doesn't have any pants, so we'll have to remember that. We're just bringing easy stuff to eat this weekend. Well, it's not even a weekend, it's a one night. So we'll have to bring dog food, stuff that can go in the microwave. Make this an easy trip just to kind of work out the bugs. So I still have this whole closet that currently doesn't really have anything. I think these could work in here. This is for pantry stuff. All right, thankfully that works. I have a garbage can, but need a garbage bag. All right, well, I'm done for today. Getting ready for our first adventure. Sky's ready. We're going to a distillery about a half an hour away. It's on the border of Wyoming and Nebraska. It's part of a membership that we have that you can stay at breweries and wineries as for free as long as you purchase something from the whatever from whatever place it is. So this is our first trip. We have our fun little sign. And the dogs are anxious to get in the car and go. They have no idea where we're going. This will be the first time that the dogs sleep outside of their crate. So we'll see how much sleep we get this evening. But again, we're close. So this is just trying to figure out what we know, what we don't know. We almost left without the generator. Don't know if we need it, but figured we should have it. Loki's getting ready. This guy's the most excited. Here we go.
we just wanted to do a short recap of the camping trip, the first camping trip in the RV, and what we learned. This was my first time, I think, ever. Oh, well, that's not, well, when I was in like 6th grade or 7th grade or 8th grade or something like that, I went snowmobiling with a friend of mine whose parents had like a big RV that they had permanently parked in the state forest in Pennsylvania. So I guess technically I slept in a tractor trailer or RV for a couple nights then, but other than that, this is the first. I've camped in a tent and things like that, but I've never camped in a RV before. Kim has, because her parents used to have a trailer whenever she was younger, and they used to go camping all the time. But it's been, a couple years.
It's been over a minute.
So this was our first trip with the RV. Like we said, we went and stayed at a distillery like half an hour away through Harvest Host, who we joined. So that's a place that has places you can stay that aren't traditional campgrounds. There's breweries, wineries, distilleries, farms, ranches, random places that have lots of parking and spaces that they're fine with people camping there, usually for like a night as you're passing through, not to like go stay for a week, but with usually, I think most of them are free. It's a membership thing.
Yeah, it's a membership. It's less than $100 a year, and it's free, but they want you to spend some money at the place.
Yeah, whatever business it is. So we went there because it's nearby, and we figured, if it was terrible or we forgot something really important, it wasn't too long to come home and get it. So mostly it was just to see if we could remember how to hook the trailer back up to the truck and tow it and get it set up once we got there, and to see how the 4 dogs would do in the trailer overnight without a crate to sleep in, because a couple of them really like to sleep in their crate and are incapable of going in themselves without being told it's time to go to bed and given treats. Or one of them, I should say. So we just thought we'd go over how it went and a couple things we learned that we're going to go again in a couple weeks to another Harvest Host place nearby, and then assuming we still both agree that it's a good thing, I guess we're going to go camp on our land up by Casper for a weekend, because Kim has something she has to go do there for work, and so instead of driving up and staying in a hotel by herself, we're all going to go up and stay on our land, and she's going to go to whatever. So I guess I learned 2 things. One, I've never been in prison, but I'm going to assume that the beds in prison are probably more comfortable than the bed in this RV. It's a king size, or an RV king size bed, which is nice, but it's basically a slab of plywood or OSB with like I'm going to say 1/8 inch foam mattress on top of it. It's moderately usable if you like lay flat on your back and don't move. But if you like to sleep on your side or anything, or there's 2 or 3 large dogs in the bed taking up a lot of space and you need to contort yourself to find a space from your own, then it quickly becomes quite uncomfortable. So I think we need to get either a different mattress or, a giant piece of foam rubber to put on top of it, or something to make it bearable, because I basically didn't sleep the whole night that we were there. The second thing that became obvious to me is, this RV is not set up for boondocking or off-grid camping for any period of time, right? It has one solar panel on the roof and a charging system, but it just has 2 regular, 12-volt lead acid batteries, which we got there in the middle afternoon, and everything was charged and everything, and we did not. Right, I turned the refrigerator on. It's a 12-volt refrigerator, not propane or anything, so it's just 12-volt. The one inside, and because we just had some drinks and some small stuff in there, and we turned the water pump on and eventually got it to work. But really, other than when you're using water, that shouldn't really be using much electricity. And then that's it. Like we were sitting outside, and then when it got dark, the dogs went in the inside, and we went in to the distillery and spent our requisite money on some drinks and some souvenirs. So it's not like we had a lot of lights on or anything like that. They're all LED lights in there anyway, so they shouldn't really take that much electricity. But so the only thing we were really using was the refrigerator, and I have a CPAP machine that I use at night to sleep with so that Kim doesn't murder me in my sleep. And there's an inverted outlet next to the bed for just such a thing. And like by, I don't know, halfway through the night, the batteries had drained enough that there were things flashing, that the battery was low, and the inverted outlet stopped working. So I was suffocating to death because I had the mask on, but it wasn't pumping any air. And so then I had to go turn off the refrigerator. That sort of stabilized things. It was chilly that night. So it wasn't like we had anything real perishable in there, and it wasn't that big a deal to shut the refrigerator off. But it was cold. We could have put the heat on, but we did not, because I never turned the propane on, and I wasn't going to do that in the middle of the night. But so nothing like that was using electricity. But we started with a full charge, and by halfway through the night, it was dead. So that wasn't real usable. We have a generator. I bought a generator. But it's a travel trailer, not a drivable RV, so it's not like the generator is built in and inside. It's got to sit outside and plugged into the thing, which if we're sitting on our land up in Casper is probably not, and it's not very loud either, right? But there were 2 other people camping there that night, and but just sitting there in a strange place, I didn't want to have it just sitting outside in the middle of the night plugged in and running, because that attracts attention of people who might just think that they need a generator. So we didn't plug it in. So I think before we go and do longer extended stays, right, we need to look into getting some lithium ion batteries, probably to start just 2 to replace the 2 lead acid batteries that are there, because from what I understand, you can discharge them to 0 as opposed to 50% with lead batteries. So from what I read, they have 2, or just by replacing the lead acid with lithium ion, you get 2 or 2.5 times the usable time before they die. And if you run them to 0, it doesn't matter. You can just recharge them again, right? If you run a lead acid battery to 0, you gotta throw the thing in the dumpster because it's useless. Frankly, if you run it to 50% or 40%. So they're expensive. So we'll see. I gotta price them out, but I think eventually I want to put more than 2, make a whole house bank. There's a big storage space under the bed. Lifts up, and the charge controller is in the little storage cabinet that's also under the bed, that accessible from outside. So I think it should be easy to redirect the wires from the outside battery cases for the current batteries through the bulkhead into under the bed, and put maybe 4 or 6 lithium ion batteries in there, and that should last us a good long while. We'd probably put a couple more solar panels on the roof too, right, to easier charge all those batteries. But that's probably going to be a iterative process. We'll probably get 2 and then maybe 2 more and then maybe 2 more, right? Because it's not in the budget with all Kim's other projects and animals to buy 6 12-volt lithium-ion batteries right now. So that's, I guess those are my 2 big things. Was need a more comfortable mattress, and we're not set up for off-grid living without upgrading the electric system a little bit. So I don't know. What about you? What did you learn?
Well, so we intentionally did something close to practice camping. I made a list of some things that we need, so that was helpful to see, what could be helpful for multiple days. I was pleasantly surprised by how well the dogs did. The distillery was relatively close to to railroad tracks, and so the dogs did not like the trains that would go through at the night, and so they did fuss a little bit every time there was a train, but for the most part, they did really well, so that was a positive. There are a couple of weird random lights right in kind of like eyesight of the pillows on the bed. Like, one is the light that connects with his CPAP, and the other is there's a charger for like cell phone or an Apple Watch or whatever, and it's like really bright green. So I made a little curtain so I'll be able to block off that light the next time we go. I think up on our land will be different, right? Because there's nobody around. The dogs definitely need some better training when other people and other dogs are around. I think they would be okay, but one of them gets the other ones going and then they all get going. So if we could rein her in, maybe that they would be okay. We got a couple of like 30-foot long leads to put them on, so that we could sit out of the camper and they could be loose but have like be tethered to us a little bit. So gonna get a couple more of those. The next harvest host that we're going to is at a farm. So the interesting thing about the harvest host, it seems like a pretty good deal, but there's no indication when you make the reservations as to how many campers they allow. I would like to know that, right? I honestly wasn't expecting there to be 3 campers where we were, but it was interesting to see how the dogs react to other people and other dogs, because the other 2 campers also had dogs.
Only 1 dog each though, because they're sane people apparently, like us.
Yeah. But yeah, like overall, I was very surprised, or not surprised. I was very pleased with how that first trip went. Just learning the different systems. We couldn't figure out how to get the water on at first, and then once we figured that out, so it's just kind of a learning curve. And then of course it snowed this week, so in the middle of a blizzard, Aiden and I had to try to figure out how to empty the fresh water tank. So, some things to make note of for future trips.
All right, so that's what we learned on the first trip. Another one coming up in a week or 2, so we'll let you know if it went any better. Not that it went bad, but hopefully each one will be better. So that's it. Bye-bye.
So it's been about a week since I gave a chick update. So I thought for this evening I would show how I have been cleaning their inside brooder box. I have another little tote set up here with just some pine shavings. This is my water discard bucket that every couple of days I take the discarded water and add it to my compost bin, because we have no moisture here. So currently my compost bin is very, very dry. I'm trying to figure out where to put this. So the water that I take out of the chicken feeder goes in there. So basically what I do, struggling with the GoPro, is I move them from this brooder box. And this is where it's precarious because this just barely fits. Tilt that a little bit, get this off. And then I take them out one at a time. Oh, hello. They're getting much bigger. Long necks starting to peek out. This is Pepper. You can hear how loud they get when I separate them from each other. Oh, everybody's getting such big long necks. Huh. Coco. Hello, my friends. My goodness, I'm not torturing you, I'm cleaning. Yes. See how big their wings are starting to get. They are tomorrow 2 weeks old. Telly's getting some really pretty wings here. The black and white stripe. This little guy with the black feet, he's one of the new ones. We ended up losing 2 at the beginning of last week. So we had lost a total of 3. So this past weekend, I added 3 more that were the same age. So that's why the size difference isn't, well, I should say why there isn't a size difference. This is another one of the new ones. So they're all the same size. So we're back up to 8. 3 black, a brown, 4 yellow ones. But so once I move them in here, they talk to me the whole time. Then what I'll do is I will take this out, and I've still been using the puppy pads just mostly because it soaks up some of the moisture and it's easier to clean out. But the water that I've been emptying, I do this at least twice a day. You don't want this stuff in my sink. So I drain out as much of the shavings that I can, let it drain down, and then the shavings, the moist shavings, are fine for my compost bin. And like I said, it does need moisture because of the dry landscape that we are in. So then I'll clean out the water bowl, clean out the food bowl. Seems to be a fair amount of food waste because of the amount of pine shavings that end up getting in with the food. I have not come up with a solution. I think once I move them into the new brooder that I'm making, I'll be able to store them up a little bit higher, so I might not have that problem, but only time will tell. But that's what I'm going to work on next. You can see they're spending a lot of time on top of this heat plate. I did move this up the other day, but so before I put it back in, this will go in. But because of the amount of mess, because of mostly the size of these guys, and I'm starting to really flap their wings around a lot, it's time for them to move into that new brooder box that's going to be in the garage. I just have to finish building it. So once these guys are cleaned and back in with their fresh food, water, and bedding, I'm going to keep working on that brooder box.